If you've ever convinced yourself that this book, this routine, or this new habit was finally going to fix everything, only to abandon it 2 weeks later, you're not broken. You're not overwhelmed, and the self-help industry knows it. In today's episode, we're calling out the toxic positivity, the fake shortcuts, and the constant chase for the next big thing that keeps us entrepreneurs stuck. We're talking about why most advice doesn't work, how avoidance disguises itself as growth, and why the real work is way less sexy, but actually effective. If you're exhausted from trying to optimize every part of your life instead of just living it, this episode is for you. Thanks for joining us here on The Entrepreneur Addict. My name is Matt Tompkins. I'm going to throw a bunch of extra T's in there just for good measure. Matthew Tompkins is my name. Being an entrepreneur / addict is my game. Lance?
And my name is Lance Pendleton, and I am also an entrepreneur and an addict.
Yes. You didn't rhyme, though, like I did.
I didn't. I tried to.
Why did you kill the rhyme?
Because it just seemed weird and kind of out of place, but you know.
Is it because you're white and you think that white people can't rhyme?
Excuse me. I am Puerto Rican, damn it. So exactly.
You look it.
I know they gave me a white name to hide it completely.
Yeah, I know, Lance.
Lance Pendleton is about as not Puerto Rican.
Sounds like it's the most Tennessee name.
I know.
Like, I mean Tennessee, not Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do that too. So, yeah.
Like a tennis player from Tennessee.
My good friend Sunny Lake Hahn always tells me that I'm doing bougie things in Fairfield County, Connecticut. So
yeah, I mean, just remember that like one of the greatest rappers of all time is a white guy. You might know him.
Vanilla Ice.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. That's true.
Yeah.
Good point. Well,
also Eminem.
And Vanilla Ice.
And Kid Rock.
And Vanilla Ice. Let us not forget the original and the legend.
Yeah.
Informer. Snow. Come on.
Yeah.
Me licky boom boom now. Like that's an important thing.
Okay.
So here's what I want to focus on for this week's episode.
Yeah. What are we doing in this? What are we doing here? What the is going on?
I want to focus on something that is near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
So just hear me out on this one for a second, because I think a lot of the people that I work with in the entrepreneurial world, and I love all of my clients. I really do. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, I genuinely love all of my clients.
I know you kind of get creepy about it.
I know, but I just want them to stop doing one thing. I want them to stop starting conversations I have with them with, I just started reading this amazing book. If I hear that one more fucking time, it's like ripping the wings off of fairies. Like, I want to scream. It's awful. Yeah. Because they all have the same pattern. It's someone in some group told them that they should be reading this. The whole group is reading this. They start reading it. And then they want help with whatever advice or suggestion is being given in this. And then they come to me and they say, help me figure out this thing, because right now I'm reading, what was the one I had the other day was, help me figure out the 12-week year. And I'm like, okay, we've been working together for a while, so I'm going to break this to you as gently as possible. There are 52 weeks in a year, and you're going to need all 52 of them to be able to survive and function. This idea that the 12-week year, the 3-day work week, that it's all bullshit. And what bothers me most about it is that it actually preys on the entrepreneurial excitement. Remember that dopamine hit that we talk about?
Yep.
Because entrepreneurs love this idea that someone else has figured out this magic potion that's going to help me be better in my business. And I'm going to really, catch fire on this now. And we're going to be crushing it just like this person is. And like you said in the open, we have no idea if that person actually does any of that, right? So like for me, I just want entrepreneurs to stop reading all of these self-help things and joining all of these groups that are going to help, launch them to the next great thing, because it's really total bull.
Well, and also it's bull that they're even reading the book, because they're not. They're listening to the audiobooks, which drives me nuts, because that's not the same as reading. You don't absorb the information the same way listening as you do reading. True. If you want to really nerd out, do it like I do. You read it and then you listen to it. You do both. And then you can quadruple absorb the nerdiness that you don't need. So I'm like, I love to read books. And like I even, you challenged me like once, you're like, here's a book on ADHD. I'm like, what's another book? You're like, well, read that one first. I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. And I was like, 1 weekend later in Squidward's voice, the book was done. I charred through that. It was good. But I do love reading. I think that like each book I can kind of when it comes to business self-help books. I've got a weird good vibe on like the pulse of the book. I'm like, okay, they've given everything that they can. Like now it's just kind of mumbly bump,
right,
just filling pages. So I'll bounce out of a book quick. I will say that like you're correct in like these. It's the 6-minute abs, 5-minute abs, 4-minute abs.
What do you mean? Nobody can do 4-minute abs.
Like what they don't tell you is that like you don't get abs by doing crunches. At least you don't see your abs by doing crunches. You see your abs by a full lifestyle change that you commit to, which is boring and unsexy.
Right.
One book I will tell you just is like, if you really want to know like what happens. So like and it's a great book. It was kind of eye-opening and I think groundbreaking for its time because this came out before virtual assistants were like a thing. It was like 2008, I think, or something like that. This book came out. The 4-Hour Work Week. So the 4-Hour Work Week talks about this guy. He literally farms everything out to VAs, including attending therapy for him and his wife. Like, so, but what happened? Like, here's the thing people don't, like, what happened after this guy discovered this 4-Hour Work Week hack? He writes this great book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and then he has too much time on his hands. And what comes out next? The 4-Hour Body. The 4-Hour Body, 3 times as thick, 10 times as gross.
Half of my life was spent with hacks that I invented in addiction to try and quell or curb the addiction, right? There was a point in time, and I am, we talk about full open honesty here and trying to be real. I switched from drinking hard alcohol to drinking white Zinfandel because I thought that was going to be the thing that I could then be normal with people and I could downshift. Why I got white Zinfandel, I have no idea. I legit bought a case of white Zinfandel a week and I drank it during the course of the week. That is a metric ton of something that no decent man should ever be doing. But at the end of the day, what I don't understand in this process becomes, if you look at this in engagement of things, it's like everyone is currently trying to give you the next best thing. It's always, what's the next best thing? What's the next best idea? What's the next best process? And what it's really doing is preying on people who are overwhelmed, who are exhausted, who are frustrated, who are often drawn to trying to find a shortcut to what is a really hard and arduous process. And it's like, well, there is no shortcut to this. Like, just like in my addiction, there was no magic shortcut that I could take. It's like, no, you need to stop drinking. Like, that's the thing. There's no, let me taper down on this. And in business and the entrepreneurial world that we live in, there's no shortcut to it. There isn't some magic thing that you're going to do that's going to make you more effective. And my question is always the same thing. For the people that read these books and self-help things, when they read them and they're like, oh yeah, I finished that. It was a great book. Amazing. When did you read it? Oh, 3 months ago. That's awesome. How much of that are you currently doing today? I'll wait. None of it. And I know you're doing none of it because of the fact that it's not realistic to how you operate in life. Yeah.
And I think it is a carrot that's dangled in front of us. And it's like, have you read this? Have you read this? And, there is a lot of helpful things you can take from books and you can take from this advice. So one book I'm finishing up is Let Them, the Let Them theory. I think it is the Let Them theory, Let Them principle, Let Them, Mel Robbins. So High Five book, I forget the title of it. Book about high fives. And so this Let Them, but it's a simple premise. It does help, like, okay, it's interesting. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Like I said, I've gotten enough out of the book to where I'm probably not going to pick the book up again and finish it up because I don't think I need to. But it is helpful. It's like, yeah, you know what, that's a good point. That's a good thing to consider. There's that, and then there's the overhaul of like, take this. Like, what I do anymore is these books that are this like playbook on like every formula and everything that you need to like think, and I'm never going to remember or apply. I chat GPT that. I mean, I snap photos of every page I imported in there. I'm going to build an API from ChatGPT where it can just prompt me and guide me through the process. Because I don't think, and most people aren't taking things to that degree with the level of nerdom they're going to dedicate their weekends to. Right. We've talked about how alone I am and have no life or friends because of that. But let's not go there yet. No. People aren't doing that much, but I'm making it actually usable in my life. Right. People aren't going to go that far. So like, if it's just... It's almost like this like high or this rush that we get out of being like, oh my God, like I know something now that nobody else knows. I found the secret. Sometimes it's a book literally titled The Secret.
Yeah, another great winner.
And it's like, that came on, I fell asleep watching, I don't know, some weird AI voiced 3-hour documentary about like the brain chemistry and all this thing. And I don't know why I got into it. I fell asleep, and then all of a sudden The Secret came up on the play after. And like I ended up watching half The Secret, which is like kind of a cheesy documentary style movie, but like yeah, all of this stuff is actually still interesting. It's like, but I feel like I'm constantly absorbing the next new interesting thing, and then it's just being fleshed out.
And I think that a lot of times what happens is good concepts that are started with all of the world's best intentions, then very quickly people get a little bit of fame, they get a little bit of money behind it, they get a little bit of momentum, and they become these cult followings. And then they start saying dangerous. And you know, I'll use Mel Robbins as one. I think Mel Robbins is fantastic. I think that Mel Robbins has a great story in her life. I think Mel Robbins has done a lot of good for a lot of people. And I think that still there's things that I hear every once in a while that I'm like, oh. So Mel Robbins actually was the keynote speaker for one of the companies that I worked for previously. And she came out, it's like 2,000 people in the audience. Before she came out, there was this video trailer. And this is when she was doing the whole count backwards from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you just do something. And that's how she started her, her success. And it's great. So cool, great concept, great idea, simple, easy to affect. But in this video trailer, they had all these people that were talking before she came on stage about, just the revolution in their life and all of the impact this has had and all of these things that they were just all of a sudden changed people with. And she had all these different folks in montage. And this one guy comes out and was like, I was addicted to heroin and living in my car. And then I counted backwards from 5 and no more drugs for me. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, that is the biggest bunch of bull I've ever heard in my life. And that's actually fucking dangerous. You shouldn't be telling people who have addiction problems that counting backwards from 5 just is going to help me stop. Like, it's not really that simple. And so I think that there's places and spaces that people go with this stuff that's bad, which leads me to the thing that I want to talk about as part of this, in my humble opinion, epidemic. And that is...
Don't be humble.
And that is...
I want you to go...
I'll go off on this. These ideas that people get into these groups, right, where they're supposed to be helping you, that just turn into these toxic positivity dumping grounds of things. Like, so one of my former business partners, and he's a great person, had this program, the 6 a.m.ers and stuff like that. And it's a great conceptual idea. People getting up early, there's a little bit of motivation and inspiration, and he helped a lot of people. Still helps a lot of people. It's fantastic. But what's so interesting to me about watching that process is that you look at the people who were drawn into that, and there's people that came in, they did it for a while, they'd come back out, cool. But then there's like this core, and that core are like kind of sycophants. They are so enamored of this process, and these are all solo entrepreneurs. They're so enamored of this process that these people can do no wrong. And what's most interesting is they attend these things and they go into this stuff, and it's like, I read this book, I did this thing, my motivation word of the day is this. And they completely often ignore any form of reality of negative things that happen in somebody's life. And it kicks off this wave of sort of unhealthy toxic positivity, because toxic positivity, Matt, isn't it isn't what people, I think, typically think it is. Toxic positivity is what happens when you have real life experiences that are negative, that have deep emotional and interpersonal consequences, and that somebody, when presented with that, just completely ignores it and gives you only this positive spin that happens. And that's actually more destructive, right, than saying, well, you know what, you're stupid and you should just get over it. It is, because you can look at that person and be like, you're but coming to somebody who just lost a job, who's concerned about how they're going to feed their family, ignoring that pain, that fear, and going into, there's lots of jobs out there, you're going to get it tomorrow, stay in that positive mindset, winners are winners. And it's like, no, but you just dismiss the idea that they're dealing with something because you can't accept the reality that bad things happen to people.
Yeah. And bad things are what lead to great things. I mean, there is this, myth of, certainty and safety. And I think any good thing, every great thing has come from uncertainty, right? I mean, you look at the risks that people take, the risks every one of us have taken in our life, asking the woman out who's the girl of your dreams that you end up starting a family with. And then watch her run every morning in front of your apartment around the lake with some guy named Tom with a H in his name. Brenda. Anyhow,
Brenda.
But I think like what you're saying is 100% accurate. Like I fall victim to this. I think it's impossible not to as an entrepreneur. I love going to Barnes & Noble. I wasn't exaggerating. I can't go there anymore because I do drop like $400 or $500 and I walk out of there wanting to read every single book, and then I go home and I've got Toxic Positivity is one of the books I haven't been able to get to read because I've got so many books in my backlog.
Right.
You know, so like there is this like, it's like, it's almost like an addiction. It's a rush. Like, oh my God, brand new book. Who think, oh, this is going to be the thing. Yeah. I'm going to learn branding with this. I'm going to learn marketing with this. I'm going to this. And the perception is all that really matters. That's what's influencing us.
Right.
But in the end, like, we don't have any sort of relevant compare and contrast with like, how is this actually working? You know, it feels like it's a lot of like masking or putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Where it's like, is this really working for people? And is it the placebo effect of like, you know, like if I just if I have contact, I love to listen to Joel Osteen on Sirius XM. Not because I'm hardcore evangelicalist. Not because I'm an hardcore evangelical. I just like his messages of positivity and how he tells I think he's a fantastic motivational speaker. Right? And so I do like listening to that because it does like reframe it. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to let shit get me down. So I think like there's a healthy degree of like positivity and positive reinforcement. Like, you know, they've studied this on the metaphysical level of like, you know, unspoken words can influence how molecules shape and form when you look at quantum physics. And so there are metaphysical changes that you can, like The Secret, you know, they talk about like the power of the mind, right? There is, I think, power in mindfulness and intent. However, I think we can run away with it really fast and think that like this is the cure-all for everything. And then meanwhile, it's the boring shit that always defines whether or not your business is going to be successful. It's the boring shit that determines if you're going to be sober, clean, happy, unhappy. Like, it's the boring shit. It's never, like, people ask me, I lost 40 pounds in 2020 and they were like, what's your secret? And it's like, they don't want to know the actual answer. It's just boring. I had a lifestyle change with my nutrition. I got my hormones balanced and leveled out because they were in the toilet. And then I also just happened to have muscle reserved from when I was like 23. There was still, some of it was still there. That's it. Like, that's it.
I'm going to tell my wife that.
Hack.
I have muscle reserved from when I was 23 underneath everything that you see now.
Keep digging.
It looks like a sack of flour that I'm wearing on myself.
Maybe,
but
you know, well, there'll be one muscle in there you'll find someday.
There is. So I want to explore this a little bit with you because I think it's a super, super compelling and interesting problem that entrepreneurs face. I think entrepreneurs also can be hyper avoidant. And a lot of what I experience in talking to people is that those books, those groups, those things are another form of avoidance, right? Because there's a portion of my business, a portion of my life that's struggling, or I'm not being successful in and with. And right now, the best thing to do for me is to listen to this podcast, listen to this book, listen to the self-help thing, because that's the thing that's going to actually then fix that problem. Well, it's not. And the reality of it is if it were that simple, everybody would be doing it, and you're not addressing the reason that the problem happened to begin with. And so I talk about this often when it comes to the coaching industry. So in my industry, the problem with the coaching industry is that it's the exact same thing as the healthcare industry. It focuses only on symptom treatment, never the cause, because there's no money in fixing the cause. If you fix the cause, you don't need the coach anymore. Same as the healthcare system. They focus on symptom treatment because you just keep writing the scripts. If you sit down with somebody and ask them, like, well, you know, if your cholesterol is high, what are you eating? What are you doing? Are you exercising? How do we help live quality of life? Well, you don't need the doctor anymore if you start to focus on that stuff. So it's problematic because we look at how many of these people over time are hyper avoidant of dealing with the root cause. And it's just easier to read a book that, you know what, my problems can be fixed in this, in, you know, what, podcast, listening to this thing, whatever this thing is that's going on, well, that's going to fix my problems.
So let's dial in on problems. All right. So there is a problem that is there and it needs to be addressed. And the entrepreneur finds this new thing, podcast, book, whatever, Instagram channel that, oh my God, this is it. What ends up happening is you don't solve the actual problem. You actually create a new problem.
Right.
So now you have two problems that you have to solve.
That's a great point.
And then the crazy thing is after years of experience, you're going to look back and you're going to realize that the actual root problem is you. And it's the reason we're so avoidant is because we don't want to face ourselves. and like the nature of this podcast of like, it's everything is f***ing personal.
Yeah.
It's all about the individual. It's that at its core. We don't want to face ourselves.
It's hard.
We don't want to be honest with ourselves. We don't want to be honest, let alone other people, right? We don't want to go to therapy. We don't want to actually do the work. I don't want to see the doctor because I don't want to find out what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to admit that I have a problem, let alone try and find the solution. And then somebody says, well, hey, here's a solution over here.
Yeah.
And then all it does is create more problems. And then you can fracture your team. I mean, I've made the mistake of doing this where it's like too many new operating systems or this, that, or whatever. And then you're overwhelming people with so much change. They don't know what's happening, what's going on. And then you get frustrated. Like, I get it. I see it. Do they not see it? Like, no, they don't have what was the movie with the guy and the thing and the place, and he was talking to himself, and it's like,
a beautiful mind.
Beautiful mind.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, not everybody has a beautiful mind like yours, not everybody is, and I can say this because I am a little crazy, but like, I mean, not everybody is thinking in things that way. And it's like, we expect everybody to do that. And it is, I think it is a contagious virus it can become.
Yep. Robin Williams once said, we're all born with a little spark of madness in us. And when it's gone, you're done. And, I think that there's something to be said for the positive elements of embracing that spark of madness, of going out and doing these things. But, my own personal experience has been doing hard things is hard because you actually have to be introspective, and it's just easier to be focused on everything else that's happening. Because, when I first got sober, I was fortunate enough to be in a place and in a space where I was not just broken, but broken open. And Elizabeth Lesser has an actual really good book. It's about dealing with grief and loss, right? Different than a self-help book. It's actually her stories of people that she's worked with in grief and loss. But you look at something like that where she talks about the difference between being broken and broken open, is that broken is one thing, broken open allows you to receive, right? So you're able to actually have changes that sink in because you can now hear things that you couldn't hear before. And when I first got sober, I had to be in a spot where I was broken open. Like, I was willing to do anything anybody told me at that point in time to not live that life any longer. And I look now at working with other entrepreneurs, and what I see oftentimes in a lot of them is there isn't a willingness to be open to change. I watch people get stuck, and they get stuck in this idea where, but I know I keep repeating the same mistake, but this is going to be different this time because there's no experiential learning. And we've talked about the fact that one of the most common things I see in entrepreneurs, and it's driven by a lot of the ADHD function oftentimes, is there's no experiential learning capability to it. So what happens is happening in the now, because a lot of entrepreneurs thrive in only two periods of time: now and not now. And those are the only two periods of time they live in, right? And whatever's going on right now, they're like, no, this is it. The not now stuff, that's not now. What's happening right now that I'm going to deal with. And because of that, well, the not now stuff's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not going to, bring creativity and excitement and joy and problem solving and all the things that, we love doing, but it's still got to get done somehow, right? So we tend to pet the bunny till we kill it. It's just the nature of what it is because we keep thinking we can change something. And it doesn't work like that. It's work is not sexy.
Yeah. And I think there are new things you can learn and adapt. And like, I've noticed that. I'm curious, like, how common or uncommon it is with like other entrepreneurs that you've worked with, because I have noticed it as a differentiator just with myself, but then also in coaching and working with other business owners, whether it be through marketing or business development. There's like this gap of like those who are willing to learn and adapt and those who aren't. And like, everybody says they're willing to learn and adapt. Everybody says they're coachable, but those who are actually coachable, they aren't. That's the minority. Like, when I say coachable, I mean like to where you can give somebody constructive feedback. It may not be the thing they want to hear, but you give it to them and they're like, okay. And they take it, they consider it, they process it, they apply it, part of it, all of it, none of it, but they actually absorb it and use it to improve. That seems to be a rare commodity among entrepreneurs, at least from what I've seen. I mean, that's really one of the biggest differentiators between just a business owner who's in this for the 3 to 5 years before 51% of small businesses who are open in 3 to 5 years will be out of business. Right. To then the 15-year mark of only 15% of businesses make it that long. I mean, the differentiator is, are you coachable? Are you willing to learn and adapt and actually apply things and make changes? Or are you going to be just, a curmudgeon stuck in the mud? And you're like, no, I know better than anybody. I don't have to listen to anybody.
It's a good question. I think the answer to that question lies more in what the blocker is, because there's certain blockers that are behavioral. There's certain blockers that are neurological. There's certain blockers that are psychological. Like, there's a couple different answers to that question. One thing to be clear is someone's ability to be coachable if you're dealing with ADHD and things like that, like neurological element components of stuff like that. You're not going to change much there. I know people want a different answer, let's say.
But the awareness, like the thing I'm talking about is like somebody who says, like, they joke around, like, I'm so ADD, I'm so ADHD, but then they don't ever actually want to find out, like, okay, do you actually have ADHD? Are you diagnosed? And then are you interested in learning about any of the options and the treatments and things that could help your life?
Right.
That's a choice they're making.
It is a choice that they're making, but I do want to also give credence to the idea that, again, with those same people, they might say, yes, I want that help. All you have to do is make that phone call, right? That someone gave you the number. But guess what happened? So many other moving parts. That's a not now problem, because remember, they live in the now and they're dealing with the business and they've got the family at home and they're trying to get the kids out the door and they can't find one of the shoes for the kids and they realize it's in the freezer and they don't know how to go through that process and they've got a call that they're late to get on, and all of a sudden it's like they become the 28th thing on that list of things that need to happen there.
Yeah.
But that's driven by the neurology. So again, it's complex in that answer. The simplest form that I can put it into is, when I'm working with somebody, my job is to figure out which bucket are we in. And that's hard sometimes. But if it's a behavioral issue, then we can actually work through being coachable to understanding that there's an acknowledgement that there's a behavioral issue. If it's, neurologically driven, then right, is there an acceptance piece, and how does somebody learn to prioritize themselves in that? And, recognizing that there's a lot of really cool things that somebody can be doing to help understand how to work better with that.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at it from a psychological element, I don't touch that, because that's a very different thing. If someone's dealing with anxiety, depression, OCD, different types of things, OCD is a separate example, but that's a whole different ballgame right there. And that is out of my scope as an executive support model, as a coach in people's lives. That's just different, because I'm not qualified to be working in that realm. So you kind of got to like parse those things out to do it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't point out one thing. You're missing, I think we're missing in the conversation an important piece about someone being coachable. And that is the shame cycle that a lot of people deal with. There is something that is identified as rejection sensitive dysphoria. And what that means is that person has a driven mechanism within them that the rejection feels so intense to them that many times they will cleave into two different types of things. One of them is sort of nicknamed the chameleon, and that is that they will change themselves by anything to please somebody else, right? Just to avoid that rejection. The other one is known as the freeze. And the freeze is making any decisions or doing anything is so terrifying, because if they make this decision, they're going to disappoint these people. And if I make that decision, I might disappoint these people. So I'm going to literally do nothing here, right? And I know, like, the deadline is looming. I need to do something, but I'm just going to do nothing because it's overwhelming. That rejection sensitive dysphoria type, for a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with, is a very common thing. So when you talk about making changes and having an ability to be coachable, you got to also understand that I don't ever want to come off to somebody as any form of judgment to them in any of that. Because if I give somebody something to work on and we're working together to accomplish something and they don't do it, what I don't want them to do is stop working with me because they're like, I'm embarrassed because I feel shame in and around the fact that Lance is going to think poorly of me. So many people tell me that.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a form of this business for going on 9 years. In the last 5 years, I have probably experienced and learned and evolved what would be a normal 10 or 12 year. And I don't say that to be braggadocious. No. It's just I've literally had no life, as we pointed out. Like, all I've done is just read 7-8 books a month and just take everything course and like learn and just apply. Now, with that has come with a lot of baggage that I don't know if I would trade in to do it again. Right. But like, it's like, but I've done that. So I've made a much faster bounce back as far as like learning, applying, evolving, changing, processing things. So I think that normal span there is 10 or 15 years. 10 or 15 years is pretty normal for like to be at the point where you have the wisdom and introspective to be like, the day that you pointed out, hey Matt, did you ever think, do you have ADD or And for me to go down this rabbit hole of like, okay, I'm going to learn, make yourself aware, and then I'm going to educate, do all these things. So I think that like there is an evolution of experience and time. And so I guess that's what I would like advise people is like a key takeaway here is like, even if you don't have that lived wisdom from like, okay, I've learned, I've been doing this, let's say you're 3 or 4 years in, 5 years in, whatever, that it is important, and I can't press the importance enough to consider, to have the self-awareness to consider these 3 things. They're like, okay, some of these things are going on, like maybe you should look into these, learn about them, become aware, and then be able to educate yourself on the best course of action for yourself, depending on which bucket you might fit in.
And it's hard too, Matt, because a lot of people have been labeled for so many different things for so many different years that they hear some of this terminology and they're like, oh, another label.
Another
acronym. Right. And it's like, so it's not, our place isn't to label people and to do any of that process, but again, I go back to the relate, don't compare. If some of the things that we're talking about, if some of the things that other entrepreneurs are facing are relatable to you, well, then let's not worry about the label for right now. Let's just understand there's a commonality around it. And what are some of those things those people are doing that they're having success with to tamp down what I think is the root of all of it, which is a feeling of overwhelmed.
Yep.
I think most entrepreneurs live in a constant state of feeling overwhelmed, and they don't really know how to get out of that. And that constant cyclical cycle is the thing, because they're trying to not to disappoint all these different people going around them all the time, that it really just weighs on them, that drives the anxiety. It's why the addiction flares up. It's why so many of these different things kick off, because they're just overwhelmed all the time.
Yes, it is. That is an accurate way to describe it. And that is that unique level of stress I've described, that it's just like this overbearing sense of overwhelm. And it's just nowhere to turn. You feel trapped by it, It feels like you're drowning.
And people say like, do it till your ass falls off. And I'm like, wait, what the heck is that analogy all about? Like my ass falls off. Like I'm seeking medical attention immediately. Like it's not a good thing.
Especially, I have an incredible so I don't want to like be losing that.
God, sorry.
So key takeaway here, making yourself self-aware, being, I think, willing to listen, absorb, and take into consideration things that are going to actually move the needle, not getting wrapped up in the latest trend of whether it's the 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. club, like it's, have fun in your club. Your networking group is your support group, whatever. But let's be honest with what this actually is.
And don't let other people make you feel badly because you're not, diving into these new hot things that are going on.
Yeah.
And it's like my own
syndrome.
It's like my own personal like I made the suggestion, this is like, for the tennis, there's a men's clinic that I play in, and I made the suggestion they should have one during the weekday. And they're like, that's a great idea. So they decided to have one. And then they're like, why aren't you coming? You didn't sign up. Well, it was your idea. And I was like, because you made it at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like barely functional by 11 a.m. most days. Like I'm not a morning person. Every time I go to the Saturday clinic, they're like, oh, guess who's too good for the 6:30 clinic? Oh, it's the best time to do it. You burn the most calories then. And I'm like, you all can eat a bag of dicks. Like, I don't care. Like, this is not my thing, right? Like, this is not what I find pleasurable or enjoyable. So, Matt, it's like, if you have this process, do these things, learn these things, try these things. Don't do it with intensity. If there's an intensity behind it, then that's the first signal.
Well, and don't do things that just don't feel natural. Like if you're not a morning person, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I want to start the 9 p.m.ers club where it's like
where I hit my stride.
Right. There's like the most productive time that some folks have is like between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. I'm like, great.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like my schedules got jacked up when I did morning radio, and I had to be up at 3:30 a.m. every day. And that's a lot of like the medications I had to take, because like my mind would get super creative at night, like late at night. That's where I would get my creative second wind, and I couldn't do that, obviously, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, But since then, I'm like, man, why am I still going to bed in this old routine, this old schedule of like in bed by 9 p.m., waking up at 6, but not getting up out of bed till 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's like, what am I doing? Like, why? This is like, then I get way too much sleep. Then that impacts. It's like, why don't just do what actually feels normal and natural to you? And like, you know what? If I'm going to work from 7 p.m. till midnight, that's okay. Is the work getting done? Yes.
And to do it without guilt.
Yeah, without guilt.
I struggle a lot. My business partner's in the office all the time. And I have these moments of like, I should be in the office. I should be going to the office. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm actually not very productive in the office. I'm just not. I'm literally more productive at home. I operate better at home. There's peace and quiet. I get done. Like, it's trying to not just see these things and then drive this mechanism of like guilt around what I should be doing. I had an old friend of mine that said, you need to all over yourself. And I was like, that's cute and fun. And I remember that one.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. The secret is don't pay attention to other people, right? And the trends.
I don't think that's actually the secret.
I don't know. Is that the secret?
I think it's to have a decent amount of balance and awareness and mindfulness, let's just say, to recognize. I know, but unless you're, to make sure you're not petting the bunny until you kill it.
You know if it stinks or if it doesn't stink. Like, you can look at something. I can't get abs in 6 minutes.
Yeah, nobody has that.
5.
Right?
It's not possible.
7, though. Someone should come up with 7-minute abs, because that would be really.
And that's going to be in the next video, the next episode of Unpack Your Business. If this episode made you realize how often you're chasing fixes instead of addressing the real problem, take the next step. At Entrepreneur Addict, we help you cut through the noise, focus on what actually matters, and build containment systems that work on how you operate. Stop trying to hack your life into submission. Visit us in the link in the show notes. And namaste, but also you.